how's everybody doing? Hope they're doing. It's a Julian Dory podcast. That's what I'll be listening to, and I will be trying to. You should really go watch the original, but I will definitely be trying to boil it down, at least the key points to it. This might be one I've watched before. I'm not entirely sure. Matt LaCroix. If I didn't see this one, I've seen him somewhere else. His face looks familiar, and what they're talking about it's a broad subject, and they gave you the highlights. I've already seen the highlights, and I wanna cover just to let you know where we're going. It's basically he's going to be talking about the cover up of ancient civilizations, and I think that's a reasonable topic to have. I really do. First of all, I want to say, and I'm gonna go into it a little bit. I really, if you don't mind, I need you to reach out to your elected officials and really start bugging them to legalize assisted suicide. I want to say it was like 30 years ago, might be 20, but I want to say it was closer to 30 years ago. Dr. Kevorkian kind of showed us a better path for people that were sick like me and or dying, and I think he really did. And we've got this religious cult, and I'm going to call it a cult. Fuck them. We got this religious cult that has had their hang, and we're finding out now that it's in the UFO thing. There's people in the military that have said that, they were trying to research this UFO stuff. Uh, Lou Elizondo, when he was running ATIP, and he had high-ranking military people at the colonel and general level. And I don't know if he was dealing with the Navy where it'd be like captain and admiral level. But these people came in and, well, you don't need to be doing this. We know exactly what it is. And because I heard him say this in an interview, and he's like, oh, well, sir, he goes, you could fill me in. That would help me out a lot. And I don't know, I don't know if it was a colonel or a general or a captain or an admiral, but it was somebody at that level. If you talk to people with the military, they're talking about like an E1 prick or an E4 prick or an O3 prick, and what it is, it's the officer level. Like, no matter what your title is, no matter what branch you are, if you're at a certain level, you're what it's called an enlisted one rank, or an enlisted. When you get up to like the E4, 5, and 6, I think you're up in the sergeant level. And so you should be up in the chief level if you're in the Navy. And same thing with officer level. If you're at the O1 level, I think is what they call it, you'd be like a lieutenant or an ensign. And then you move up the ladder. And what happens is they told them, they go, well, you get your Bible out. They talk about this in there, demons and devils, and this is what is running, in some cases, the higher ups of the military. And when you listen to these experts, they said, well, the fact that we're not researching this, the fact that we're not adequately looking into this, that's a national security thing. And if you talk to some of them, like Lou Elizondo, he was being asked about this, and he goes, I got to be careful here. He goes, do I think they're dangerous? Yes. Because he said that, just to say that they're dangerous, to say that you could be harmed, that does not denote any intent. But when you say they're malevolent or malevolent, or I can't pronounce the name. I've been a little lightheaded lately, and today's not a great day. Yesterday was worse. So far, today seems better. And like the guy that owns Skinwalker Ranch, he's sort of said that he thinks there's, and again, I can't. It's that word I'm having trouble pronouncing today. But he's kind of hinted that he thinks there's a sinister thing there. Well, the way I look at it is some of the stuff that's happened on the ranch. It sounds like whatever is there could kill them if it wanted to. Like that one guy, his head started hurting, and when he got to the hospital, They couldn't explain it apparently, but there was like a swelling in his head, and they said that he might have died from it. Um, that's just the way it was. And and the best example I can give if you're a sci-fi person is there is an episode of Babylon 5 where, and it'd be the first season, it was the commander's girlfriend. She was surveying mining missions. She would like survey a planet, and when her equipment got done, she'd then go give the reading to a mining corporation, and they would tell her how much it was worth if she sold them the information. And she was making some pretty good money during it. Well, they wanted her to survey a planet. The only problem, it was in Ambassador Jakar, the Narns province. And when he found out what planet she wanted to go, he said no. He goes, we don't allow people to go there. And she didn't realize he was absolutely looking out for her. And you don't find this out until like a few seasons later. But she goes there, she starts doing her scan, and this ship comes out of hyperspace, completely disrupts her ship, and it's basically going down, gonna crash. She's gonna die. It's all gonna be horrible. The commander's not gonna get laid that night. It's just bad news all the way around. And what happened was, Jakar had sent some ships to help her out. And when she got back to the station, she goes, why did you do that? And he said, why not? She goes, that's not an answer. He goes, oh, yes, it is. It's just not an answer you particularly like or find useful. And he said, look, the commander's kind of sweet on you. And letting you die just wouldn't benefit him, is what he was getting at. And so he goes, so again, I say, why not? Why not help you out? He goes, he's in a good mood. He doesn't know I did it, so I can't benefit from it. But he goes, he's in a good mood. I've got nothing against you. So he goes, it just seemed like the appropriate thing to do. I gotta figure. Oh, I think those have to move. Yeah, these are all good. And she goes, well, what was that thing? And he said, we don't know. He goes, we tried studying it. And he goes, and as you experienced, he goes, we learned, because he said he looked at these things coming in from Earth, and he stuck his finger down, and an ant walked down, and he goes, what do you call this? And she goes, that's an ant. And he put it back down on the produce, and he goes, if another ant came up and asked that one, what was that? He goes, they would have that ant would have the same difficulty in explaining that I do. He goes, we tried studying him, and he goes, and we have learned that we can either stay out from underfoot or we can get stepped on. And he said, and she goes, doesn't that bother you? And he goes, the fact that there are things in this universe that I cannot understand or explain, he was basically saying he considered it a good thing, that there were still things that could mystify them. He didn't see it as a problem. And that's kind of what Lou Elizondo was talking about, because he said, look, if you take a primitive person to an airport and they're walking along down there and they get hit by some jet wash, if you've ever seen the movie Pushing Tin, where it's the thing he does when he needs to ground himself. He goes out and stands there and then gets, when jet wash comes by, it blows him away. And they get hit by that jet wash and they go flying. If you saw the first Top Gun movie, when that one guy flew into jet wash, it was so powerful that it took out his engines. And he was fucked. So, it is what it is. I'm going to go fucking sleep. Yeah, well, anyways, and it wouldn't have mattered. Yesterday would have been the same, but I don't schedule my rides ahead of time. I schedule them a few days ahead of time, because my brother's done that, where he gets it to where they're ready, and if those rides have to wait for long enough, they get canceled. He's had it a couple times where they were supposed to pick him up. He was waiting, and then when he calls, I go, "Oh man, I'm not seeing any rides in here. It must have got canceled." So, and I really need these rides. What in the fuck? Okay, I'm hitting the button to open. There we go. I'm hitting the button to open my menu, and it wasn't doing anything. Glitch. But I was going to call yesterday for my ride. I've got two appointments, one this month, one next month, that I have to do for the Social Security Administration. And I was going to call, get my ride. I got to go, it's Tuesday, I guess. And the. Let me make sure here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was going to do it yesterday. Well, yesterday when I was in here, I got real lightheaded, and it was kind of like what happened, although I had a little more notice on this one. It was kind of like what happened that day I fell and shattered my ankle. And so I just went and laid down. Well, shit, I ended up going to sleep, and I didn't wake up. I think I woke up once and then went right back to sleep. I was kind of out of it. And at least I think I woke up. Either was pretty good fantasy. I don't know. But it was late. Cats had already been fed, so it was after 5 o'clock. And I got up, and I kind of forgot about it, but it would have been too late anyways. So I called them today. And I'm sorry. They play this bankers game where they're like, well, you got to call 2 days ahead of time. Well, if I can call Friday and get a ride for Monday, then I can call Saturday for a ride on Tuesday. And then this is the same. It sounded like the same voice, I think, as the one, because she was the one trying to tell me I couldn't call on Friday because I needed to give them 2 business days to get a ride. And when I talked to my brother, he goes, if you call on Friday, you should absolutely be able to set up a ride for Monday. He goes, I do it all the time. And she's pulling that same shit again. And I told her, I go, if I can call on Friday and set up a ride for Monday, I go, I should be able to call on Saturday and set one. She goes, well, it's got to be 2 business days. I go, well, then how can I call on Friday and get a ride for Monday? Because I go, they're either business days or they're not. I go, you got today and you got Monday. There's your 2 days. And then she got kind of quiet. And then so she started, and then I gave her, I think she just didn't want to do her job. That's my honest opinion. But what happened was I told her where I needed to go. Now, this is coming from the Social Security Administration. It's not my choice. I got to go. And then she goes, oh, well, we can't send a ride there. That's not a legitimate medical facility. I go, this is where the Social Security Administration is telling me to go. And she goes, well, the provider is this. It's given me the provider, this guy's name, PhD. And then she's just fucking around. And then she goes, well, I would need them to call. And I go, well, they didn't give me a phone number. I go, I will try to call the guy today, but I go, they might have to call you on Monday. And I go, if you don't want to schedule one today, I go, you're probably going to like scheduling one on Monday even less. She goes, well, I just can't sign one unless we got to go, all right, fine. She goes, if you had their number, I go, they didn't give me a number. And I'm not really mad at her. This is more the Social Security Administration. When they gave it, see, they don't like to answer their phone. 1, 2, 3, 4. They don't like to answer their phone. I can call my congresswoman or congressman, and I can wait on the phone, and somebody will answer that phone and either take down what I need or let me know roughly when they're going to call me back, or they'll send me a letter. And with Social Security, nope. And I left a couple messages, and I let her know. I go, look, I'm recovering from a broken ankle, but I go, even if my ankle was healthy, I go, I don't carry my phone with me. Because I go, if I lose it, I don't have a phone. And I go, if I drop it or if I fall on it and break it, I don't have a phone. So I pretty much leave it there. And I go, with the lightheadedness I get, I go, if I'm dragging it around with me and it falls out of my pocket or I set it down and forget it, I don't have a phone. So I go, I rarely, if ever, carry it with me unless it's like a dire emergency. And I go, this does not qualify for a dire emergency because, it's routine things. So I told her, I go, you either need to leave me and I told her, I go, I can't get my voicemail to work. So I go, you need to, you either need to shoot me a text message, you got to send me an email. Because I go, the chances of me being right there, Johnny on the spot on the phone, is pretty unlikely. And I mentioned that to her twice. And, again, how hard is it to hire people that know how to fucking answer a phone? I'm sorry. Um, so that's what was going on. Well, they got this thing set up. I called. Well, the first thing, they won't schedule it because it's not a medical facility. And then I looked the guy up. I got his phone number. And I went to call him, and I figured I'd be leaving a message because it's Saturday, but I was going to leave him a message like, hey, I got an appointment with you on Tuesday. You have to call Vail and schedule my ride because I go, they won't send it to you because it's not considered a legitimate medical place, so you have to contact him. His phone's been disconnected. I had to look him up, but I found him. He's based out of Illinois. I'm not trying to dox the guy. I'm not mad at him. But he's based out of Illinois, and his phone's disconnected. The number, the medical, God, there's like three different sites that had his phone number, the same number. And I called it, and it's disconnected. So I got a hold of Trajector, and I go, look, is this a real thing, or are we being scammed? Because I go, the place they're sending us, I go, Vail is saying is not a legitimate place, so they won't send a ride for me. And I go, and then they told me that they have to call from their end and schedule the ride to get me there. And I go, I looked up his number, and I go, here it is. And I go, I copied and pasted. So I go, I did not. I go, I will try it again. But I go, I copied and pasted it. So I know it wasn't me. And I go, it's telling me it's disconnected. I go, are you sure you talked to Social Security Administration? Because I go, this is starting to sound like a fucking scam here. But I go, I told him, I go, if I'm able to drive on Tuesday, then I will drive myself. But I go, if I'm not able to drive, which I got a feeling that there's at least a chance with all the stress I'm under, I go, I'm not going to be able to go to this damn thing. I don't know what's going on, but I go, this is not right. It's not kosher in any way, shape, or form. And so we'll see. I have no idea. But it just blew me away with this shit. And so yeah, please reach out to your elected officials and get them to approve assisted suicide, because I think that's going to be easier than trying to fix what the fuck is wrong with the government. I sincerely do. I don't know. But yeah, that girl I talked to today, I have no idea, but I got a feeling she's probably shopping or something and doesn't like being interrupted because I think it's the same girl because the voice sounds real familiar. And you get this just shit like you don't get from any of the other people, like, oh, 2 business days. Well, okay, then how come I can call on Friday and get a ride for Saturday, because that's not 2 business days. Because Saturday and Sunday you're saying aren't business days. That makes absolutely no fucking sense. And then the other thing she does, she's like, well, so you're saying you do not have another ride that could be reimbursed for the mileage in that? And it's like, no. And what business is that as her? No, I don't. I've done this before. But you shouldn't have to go through that every time you call just because she doesn't want to fucking pick up the phone and quit shopping on eBay or whatever the fuck she's doing. I don't know. I I had a team leader like that when I was still working at GM, and the worst part of it is, I watched her do it to somebody in management. She had a friend. She had a friend in the office, and she had been management, and she was fucking shopping on her tablet or something like that at work. And the boss came up, the foreman, group leader, whatever you want to call. He came up. He needed to do her fucking job, and she's like fucking shopping on the internet, and she just puts her finger up, like, wait, 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 and she didn't even look at him. She just put her finger up, and he kind of looked at me, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, then what was funny is, I was talking to him, and because I made some kind of a comment, and he goes, wow, and he sort of mentioned that. He goes, well, I come up to people and need them to do their job, and he goes, they stick their finger at me because they're busy shopping online, and I go, well, I go, you should be able to do something about that, and he just kind of rolled his eyes. And then I can't remember if it was the same time or a different time, but I know the my committee person said, "Oh, she's got friends up in the office. She's protected." And I'm like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then what happened was I pushed some issues. Like one of the issues I pushed was, how long was she in management? What's her seniority? And my alternate committee man, she was normally the acting committee man because the committee man was the regular committee man was a committee man at large. So he was usually on day shift a lot of the time because he was an acting shop committee guy. So she was basically doing the job. Now he came in and helped out. He was a good guy, but I knew this from my old plant. In a case like that, that should have been like a 5 minute thing, where she goes in and figures out, what the seniority is. And I think the same person was pulling some shit on the vacations because she wanted a vacation day approved, and I had mine in first. And when I talked to her about it, she goes, "Oh, there's nothing we can do. It's just the way it is," because she wanted the date, she wanted the time off. And I made a comment. Well, then what she did was she just let me go to the vacation meeting, and that was fucking useless. So I got my committee man or alternate committee girl on it, and she basically did her job. I mean, she was fucking great. She went through all the paperwork, and she came up. She said, "It's going to take a while," but she goes, "I think we're getting to the bottom of it." And I got my fucking vacation day approved, and management's little pet, she didn't get it. She absolutely didn't get it. And so I don't know. But I was raising these concerns. I'm like, wait a minute. This is, from what I'm being told, is the committee person is being told flat out by management that they can't have this girl's seniority date. And I go, I think she was in management long enough. I go, she's probably got no line seniority. I go, she probably doesn't have enough seniority to hold the team leader job. And I go, even if she does, she probably doesn't have enough time to hold the shift. She might not even have time to hold the department. And I go, and then the other thing is, I go, she doesn't seem to know how to do her job. And I go, I'm kind of wondering if her little special friend up in fucking labor is pulling some strings. I go, did she even take the test? I go, was she able to pass the test? I go, I got a feeling she didn't even take the test because there's a lot of things out here she doesn't seem to know how to do. The fucking line went down the one day because she didn't know how to fucking take a part back out. And it was, I don't know if he was the new guy or just filling in, but he was the one covering the area manager. And he came over and he goes, "Why are we down?" I go, "She can't do her fucking job." I go, "If you know how to do the job, doing her repair is just doing it in reverse." And he goes, "Exactly." And they're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Well, I think before they actually had justice come down to her, she ended up retiring and getting out of there. So there was some shit going on there with management and a union person, a former management person. But fucking A, man, that was just fucked up. That was just absolutely fucked up. Uh, 1, 2, 3. But yeah, so I really don't know what to say, um but that's the thing. You got this shit going on. So seriously, please reach out to your elected officials and let them know. If we can sit there and watch people get murdered because religious nuts don't want to fix the gun laws, they're just they claim to be pro-life, but we can't fix the gun laws. And they make us watch these kids. I mean, God forbid if it's a Republican, if it's a Supreme Court justice, some fucking piece of shit that's going to overturn Roe v. Wade or undo fucking 100-year-old gun laws or undo a 70-year-old abortion law. Oh my God, they must be protected. Oh my God, how can you let that guy with the gun walk around his fucking house? Well, first, Second Amendment, motherfucker. That's how we do it. Oh my God, we had a whole bunch of Republicans shot while they were playing softball. How can you sit there? Hey, Second Amendment. You know, those fucking Republican congressmen, when they were getting shot at when they were playing softball, now they know how a fucking abortion doctor feels. Now they know how someone who wants to get an abortion feels. Fuck you. Fuck them. And because this doesn't get better. This doesn't get better until they start to experience the world they created. It really doesn't. You got the Washington Post and these Republicans are all like, oh my God, you can't put Donald Trump in jail. Yeah, we can. We absolutely can. We can tell the Secret Service, you either go the fuck in there unarmed, you watch him from security cameras in a secure location. You don't go, once you're in there, you give up your weapons. Not even a fucking can of mace. And if you don't feel you can do your job, you just submit a report and he loses his fucking Secret Service protection. I'm sorry. And then what happens is, if he gets raped in prison, if he ends up dying, well, then it tells the next one, don't break the law. No more Abu Ghraib. No more fucking torture memos. That guy that wrote that torture memo, they should be sending him to the fucking Hague. I'm sorry. None of this shit. No more trying to overthrow the government. No more selling illegal weapons to like terrorists and shit. You're done. Because otherwise we're going to send you in there. If he commits suicide like they say Epstein did, that would be a tragedy. It would absolutely be a tragedy. But you know what it does? It sends a message to the next one. Don't do it. Is it really worth it? But if he sits there like Bill Barr and the Washington Post and Lindsey Graham and some of them other ones, if he gets convicted and he doesn't go to jail, all they're saying is, well, it's going to happen again. Because Bill Barr, he told Trump, hey, this would have worked if you'd have gotten better lawyers. But you hired Rudy Giuliani, you hired Howdy Rudy and the fucking morons, and this is what happened. This is absolutely what happened. Where next time they'll have better people, and it'll look like Gore v. Bush. But if you get some decent people in there and they fucking make this real, well, then what'll happen is this won't happen again. They will sit there and go, oh yeah, this isn't worth it. If they watch him have some horrible shit happen to him, well, then they'll say, oh, we can't do this again. Or they'll at least have people go, I ain't doing this again. It just came out now that Roger Stone, I'm going to get off of this. I apologize. But So yeah, please write them. Tell them we got to have legalized assisted suicide. Kevorkian showed us the way 30 years ago, and we have been held hostage to the fucking religious nuts in this country long enough. So yeah, I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but they let me know if you don't go to this damn thing, they usually deny your application. So I wrote the president and I told him, I go, yeah, this is the fucking shit going on here. This is absolutely the shit going on. They set it up, and it's not a medical facility. So I go, my ride that I'm supposed to get won't go to it. I got to have somebody from there. I go, they didn't give us a phone number. I go, I finally found the phone number today. It's disconnected. This doesn't make any goddamn sense. It literally does not make any goddamn sense. I don't know. I literally don't know. And so yeah, please write them. Well, anyways, they got these civilizations. Getting back to, I apologize, but this really hit me today. It really, really fucking hit me today. And you got these civilizations, and I have heard this. Now, this is not from the video. I sort of watched the beginning of it, and I gotta go find a. I gotta go find a bed. It's gonna be nighttime pretty soon. And but they have pretty much said that the pyramids, and there's evidence. You know, again, some people say yes. It's not like the climate debate. I think it's the same thing on principle, where you've got the people that are actually being honest and know what's going on. But it isn't like the climate change thing where you've got 99.999% of the fucking scientists are saying, yeah, it's real. And then you got the ones that work for Michelin and OPEC are saying, oh, no, it's not real. The Michelin man said so. And or the flat earthers, where the overwhelming majority of the people are saying that the flat earth thing is bullshit. And then you got these fucking numbnuts that, oh, no, it's real, it's real. Here's our evidence. What was funny is those fucking flat earther motherfuckers, they actually hired a team to prove that it isn't true. And the people they hired, the people they hired came back and said, yeah, the earth is round. It was the experts that they hired, and they did their due diligence, and they came back and said, yep, the earth is round. It's not flat. Here's why. And it's kind of like the Nixon administration. They commissioned a study to show pornography was bad. I think it was the Nixon administration. They commissioned this study to show that pornography was bad, and the people didn't, they didn't do they didn't do what the Republicans want them. They actually looked at the facts, and they came back and said that, hey, a little bit of porn, little bit of pleasure in yourself is actually a good thing. And so they threw that motherfucker in a drawer, and it did not see the light of day. They just buried it. And but anyways, that there's that. There's these people, they say that the Sphinx and I think the pyramids, they show signs of weathering, like ocean water was hitting them. Not like a mist or a dew or something, but like heavy rains, ocean activity, that kind of thing. And they say that, to find a period where that matches up, you have to go back to the Younger Dryas, which was an earlier, I don't know how much, I really don't remember it, but that was a podcast I did a few weeks ago where I was talking about the Younger Dryas. But it goes back to then, and then like Hancock, can't think of his first name. He doesn't consider himself an archaeologist. He's like an author, journalist. He researches stuff. Like if you If you've ever read the Valley of Horses, the Clan of the Cave Bear, they did a movie. You don't even really have to read the book. You can, I mean, it's got Daryl Hannah in it back when she was just hot as shit. They did a movie on the Clan of the Cave Bear, and the woman who wrote those books, she did, and this is the way Graham Norton, no, Graham Hancock, that's the guy's name. Um, she's like him. She researches her topic. Well, she's writing a book, and I would say this is overkill, but God bless her. She did a lot of research on what pre-glacial Europe looked like. And so there's a lot of that in her books. Well, he does the same thing. He researches a lot of this stuff that may be overkill, but he still researches it. And he can tell you that you have to. So he goes, we really don't know how old they are, but we know that they existed 9 or 10,000 years ago because that's the last time where you had climate, you had weather in that area that matches the patterns of damage we've seen to it. Um, kind of like when you go to a crime scene, you might not know, you might not have proof of the rapist, but when you're checking the evidence and you're seeing the semen drip, the blood, when you're looking at the wounds and stuff left on the body, they can pretty much, hey, we didn't see them, we don't know who did it, but we know they were here. We're seeing the after effect of it, and that's what's going on with that. And so that they know that. And I've also seen videos where they talk about, and I don't know how credible it is. I'm just passing it on to you, but I've seen these things where they talk about this shit, and they state that, like, the pyramids, the Sphinx were made by the survivors of Atlantis. And they used Atlantean technology. And then you go to Edgar Casey. They were talking about this on the one with, I just watched the other end. I put it on. I was watching it in here. I knew I was going to like pass out. It felt just like that day I fell and shattered my ankle. So I signed off. I went and got in bed. I turned it on. I think I watched maybe 5 minutes of it and I was out. And then I was out for the rest of the day. And then I had a hell of a time getting to sleep last night because it basically took me out for so long yesterday. It wasn't even funny. And so what happened was but he was talking about how like Edgar Casey, he normally he healed people. He gave them advice. He normally looked in the present or the future, and he would see how he needed to. Like I think I said this before, he figured out how to treat his wife's tuberculosis, or I think that's it. It's the stuff. The stuff Doc Holliday had. If you watch I think it's tuberculosis, and he basically figured out how to heal her. He's like, you gotta. It was like some kind of specific kind of vinegar. You needed to boil it in like a wooden barrel or something like that, and then breathe the fumes in, and it would cure it. And it worked. And he started, recommending it to other people too. And so we got that. That's another thing, and it goes with this basically the secret, or basically the video. I got to get my tablet shut off. But this is the stuff they're kind of lying to us about, is the premise of the video. And I don't know if he's going to go into that, so I kind of want to cover some bases here. And another thing is, um, and I think Graham Hancock might have been talking about. There was a video I watched, and there were a lot of shitty videos that I tried watching. I'm like, man, I can't get anything useful out of that. But there is one, and this is something I heard before. And again, it is what it is. I don't know how reliable it is, but there was one I ran across a while ago, like maybe 20, 30 years ago. I don't know if I was still in high school or not when I read this, but they were talking about how Mars used to be the planet that we inhabited it. And I think it also said Mars was the third planet in orbit. And there was some kind of, I don't know if that's true or not, but that is, from what I remember, and I might be getting it wrong, so don't necessarily trust. But Mars was the third planet, we were the fourth planet, and there was some kind of a catastrophe, and the two planets flipped, and it caused a lot of problems, and then we had to come here because of what happened there. And then when you hear about it, they've talked about this, and I think the thing I heard, this kind of goes with it, and this might be the catastrophe that flipped everything. But there's some that say there used to be, and the recent stuff, and I think this was Graham Hancock, might have been somebody else, might have been something off of Gaia that's up on YouTube. But they said there used to be a fifth planet after Mars, and it got destroyed, and that's now the asteroid belt. And they said that there are some people that know about the sky, astrophysicists or whatever they are, and they say that, yeah, there's actually evidence that there used to be another planet, and now it's the asteroid belt because it got destroyed. And then when you start to see this, it's like, okay, well, you hear these things where there was a great tragedy and the planet was destroyed. That like that's a civilization reset. And that was one of the things, and this was on Gaia, where they talked about, well, yeah, the story about Atlantis being killed or the Mayans disappearing, all this shit, that is not a standalone incident. There's like a reoccurring cycle where every so often we'll get like a civilization like ours where we get to be big, we get to be powerful, we start to figure stuff out, and then something horrible happens and we get reset. And you look at what's going on now with everybody suddenly starting to scramble and worry about all these UFOs that are coming in. Maybe paying the piper's about to come due. Maybe the civilization's going to come back and they're going to look at us. They're going to look at the military state. Maybe they're going to look at, kids being molested. Maybe they're going to look at the Republican Party. Maybe they're going to take a look at the libertarians. Maybe they're going to take a look at some of these other fringe groups. Maybe they're going to look at some Democrats. And they're going to be like, oh my God, you're supposed to be a leader. You're supposed to be above all this, and you're fucking insider trading and lining your fucking pockets. And maybe they'll come back and just say, yeah, this isn't what we wanted. We're going to start over with the dinosaurs again. Start over with the reptiles. So you guys aren't getting it done. It's hot enough now. We could definitely go to a reptile society, and maybe they're going to start over. And maybe there's people that know and they just don't want to say anything. I don't know. I literally don't know, but I just kind of wonder. And it's not good. Any way you want to slice it, it's just not good. Okay, we got that. Well, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get that fired up. I've set the stage for it. And like I said, I got to watch this. Yeah, this is Julian Dory on YouTube, the most shocking ancient civilization cover-ups of all time with Matt LaCroix. Okay, now he's talking about the Sumerian kings list and that's a Sumerian list, and he's talking about stuff in the Bible, and it's gonna basically say that there are these people that lived like hundreds of years, thousands of years. They didn't have a lifespan like ours. They had a bigger one. So was there something in the food? Was there something they did? Was there some kind of a technology or something else they had? Or were these guys not really human? Or maybe they were human. If you take a look at Stargate SG-1, maybe they were more like the ancients or the Asgardians, where they had this technology or this knowledge that allowed them to live, and then we lost it because of a solar flare or a meteor hitting the ground. Maybe we lost whatever that was that they had. And if you watched Babylon 5, the that one species, the Death Walker, again, first season, she figured out how to kill people and allow other people to live forever. And she made the comment when they figured it out, the anti-agapic that she developed, she goes, the the millions of people that are going to live forever because of my research are a tribute to my greatness. And she goes, the millions of people that are going to have to die so that they can is a continuation of my Holocaust. And she was just an evil person. I can't remember the name of the race, but they'd pretty much wiped them out. They were kind of like the Nazis. She was like the Mengele of the spacefaring race. And when she went, because they were going to work on it, well, the Vorlons came in and just blew her out of the sky. And then when the commander looked at the Vorlon ambassador, the ambassador goes, "You guys are not ready for immortality." And he just walked away like, "Yeah, I know you guys aren't going to do anything." They were the most powerful race on the station. But they did. They just showed up, opened up a wormhole, blew her ass out of the fucking sky, and called it a day. But yeah, So he's talking about that. I got to back that up, and it's such a long podcast that I can't back it up a little bit because the timeline's so big. But he's talking about the original 5 cities, and I don't know if this was the King's List or out of the Bible. If you find anything I'm going to talk about in this, you got to go watch the whole thing. Again, Julian Dory on YouTube. It's a podcast, and it's the most shocking ancient civilization cover-ups of all time with Matt LaCroix. Eridu he's talking about the city of Eridu, and he goes, it fits into a much bigger puzzle than we think it does. Hang on, let me get these planted. I have no idea how to spell that. Myth of Adapa. Eridu is part of 5 cities created. The last one was called Shuruppak. He's saying Shuruppak was discovered in 1931. Okay, the guy was saying that when they went to Shuruppak in 1931, he said, I think they honestly wanted to discover what it was. He goes, the control mechanism, because he goes, they had this whole, they had something about a parade and all this other shit in the 40s. And he goes, I think at first they really want to know. So it was kind of like, Roswell. Originally the army said, hey, we got a UFO. It's real. We found it, and then they covered it up either later that day or the next day. It was just a complete 180, and it sounds like this was the same thing. That there were people who did really want to know, and then afterwards it got covered up. Just couldn't have it. He said they had to dig down 45 feet before they found the city of Shuruppak. And he said back then they didn't really believe in the myth of the flood, and they found evidence of this city having been destroyed because they didn't really find a lot of things on it. Although, and this is something Grant Hancock talked about in that one I was trying to watch yesterday, I was watching it in here. Uh, he went out and it was down by Greece somewhere in that area, and he got talking to them and they said, well, yeah, there's like ruins under the water. And he goes, there are? And they go, yeah, they're just under the water. We hit them with our fishing nets. And they're out there fishing, trying to feed themselves and make a living for their family and their village. And what happens is their nets get caught on these ruined buildings down there, and they sometimes have to send people down there to free the nets because they can't throw them away. They can't afford that. And what happens is sometimes people die. They're down there. And so, he's talking about, yeah, they did all this. And the same thing with Gobekli Tepe and some of that. They got to dig down pretty far to find some of that stuff. And he said when they did that digging, they figured they would find other evidence of stuff under there, and he said they didn't. Uh, again, because they didn't believe in the, and then they're like, well, okay, maybe there really was a flooding, but maybe it was just regional. But they figured there would be evidence of other people around there, and he said they looked and they couldn't find any evidence except for what they had found 45 feet down. And he's saying like they found when they found the second city in that area, because there's five cities, remember, from what he was talking about. They found the another one. Well, that one had so much sediment, and it apparently was evident that it was from a flood. And this one here basically told him, well, yes, there was so much, you know, there was so much sediment and other stuff that this is why they didn't rebuild there. It just wasn't possible to build. Oh, another thing that was brought up, and this was with that Graham Hancock thing yesterday before I fell asleep or passed out, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Um, there, there was. You go down to the Amazon, and this is something I didn't know, but if you, like he said, the soil is viewed as good down there because you got all the nutrients from the leaves and stuff. But he said if you cleared those leaves out before long, a lot of that soil would not be fertile. You would not be able to make it work. If you cleared it out to put a civilization there. But he said there are areas, and I'm gonna probably do a whole stream, because these days I've been having, I get to where if I'm lucky, if I can get a half hour being coherent. But I'll talk about this. But it's this black dirt, Preta something or other. It's a special black soil down there, and they have found that down there. And he said it's man-made. It's not natural, and somebody created it. It's just full of bacteria. And he goes, and this stuff will spread. He goes, if you go down there and find an area and you work that soil, it will start to spread out. You can't go in there and destroy it. You'd have to, basically be a good steward of the earth. But he said that from what they found, that soil will spread. That the bacteria and everything, as long as you give it a good life-giving, environment, it's good. It's good to go. And so and he talked about that. So there's a lot of this weird shit out there, because that's something I only heard about the last couple of years. I never heard about that Preta soil, whatever, that black soil down there. Never heard about it. Okay, that first city starts with an E. He's saying that's mentioned in the story of Gilgamesh, that he was the, evil king, butcher king of that city. but he said it's before Sherepesh, the second one that I told you about that starts with an S. I'm getting the names wrong. I'm gonna stick in there as long as I can. But he goes, he's from a different time period before that city was ever built. And so again, you see it as a story, but now that we've found the cities, it might not be a story, it might be history. Okay, I'm gonna try and get this right. Uh, Opan, and I'm getting it as close as I can, but it's Sumerian. It's the story of Gilgamesh, Opan Commission or something like that. He's gonna be the one who becomes Noah. And he said this Gilgamesh, and he made a comment. I don't understand this because I think it's either a movie or something that I'm either not remembering or I didn't see. But he was talking about like the boatman of Charon from Greek mythology or whatever. You know, the boatman that takes you to the underworld. And he said, the whole thing where there's like a crane or something that picks the boat up and moves it. He said, that's from this story, Gilgamesh. He goes, this is the part of Gilgamesh that most people don't read. And then he starts talking that he traveled to this city that starts with S, and I apologize, but I don't want to give you the wrong name, but it's the one I mentioned. If you need to, go back. I honestly can't remember which one it is. But he said it's that city. And he goes, he went and he's talking about this character who's basically the person that is going to become known as Noah. And I'm finding this fascinating. Okay, he's saying Gilgamesh is known as Sayasutra or something like that. He said back then there's a lot of these characters that go by different names depending on the time period. So we're talking about people that lived a long time. Okay, now he's saying this, and I haven't read the story, but he's saying that Gilgamesh is talking to this other guy, and I don't know if he's supposed to be Noah or not. I think it's a different guy. But this guy is telling him that he lived in this city with the S, and it existed so long ago you know nothing about it. And he said the gods lived there. They walked among us in there. And I just want to add this in. I'm going to pretty much, what time is it? Okay, it's over an hour, and I'm still feeling pretty good. So I'm going to go a little bit longer, but I'm going to really wrap this up. I'm going to really recommend it. If I've kind of whetted your appetite, if I've gotten you hungry for this, go watch the actual video. Julian Dory, the most shocking. I don't really want to steal other people's stuff, but if I find something interesting and I can kind of share it with you a little bit. But the one thing I want to add is if you watch that movie, The Fourth Kind, with oh God, it's the girl that was in The Fifth Element and the can't think of her name. Real cute, attractive, skinny. I think she used to be a model before she became an actress. But she was in The Fifth Element. She starred in it with Bruce Willis. She did those Resident Evil movies. She's done a lot of stuff. She starred in that, and it was based on actual events. It was inspired at least by actual events. And the guy that was her friend, because she was playing a character that was I might watch that again. She was playing a therapist or psychologist, and she was doing some sleep deprivation studies. She had a group of people in Alaska who were having sleep problems. And what she found of most of the people she was dealing with, they were getting visited by aliens. And it kind of came out in there that her husband may have killed himself, and maybe it was over the aliens. And the thing I will tell you about that movie, and this is another one, if you haven't seen it, I really recommend you go and watch it. Because what they did was they shot this movie, and they used their special effects magic and all this. Well, I think at some point somebody noticed that the actual stuff they had was as good, or in some ways maybe not as clear, maybe not as impressive, but was more scary. So the version of it I saw, you get a split screen where they show you, like, she videotaped some of her sessions. She videotaped some of her sessions. There's a scene in there where she's put under house arrest, and they actually have the deputy sheriff's dash cam. And you have what they made side by side with his actual dash cam. Because what happened was her daughter disappeared. And, well, I'm getting a little ahead of the story, but what happened was she did this study, and the people that were in her study ended up getting hurt. And some of it you get to see, like, and again, they did the Hollywood version, and then they did her video where this guy, she was putting him under that regression. You see it on the X-Files, that regressive hypnosis where they put you under and they take you back to relive an event, because these people didn't remember things, and she was trying to get them to remember. She figured it was whatever happened, they were suppressing it, that kind of thing. And what happened was this guy flipped out. He literally floated on the bed or in the chair. His body started convulsing, and the guy had to go to the hospital. He had back damage and other stuff. And the sheriff wanted to arrest her for it. He thought that, he was one of these old school sheriffs. he didn't believe in therapy, and and there's still some of them around, but it was a little more prevalent back then. And he didn't believe in all this shit. And what happened was, her friend, who's another therapist or a psychologist, whatever she was, he was one. He basically told the sheriff, you can't put her under arrest. Because there was another case where one of her patients was holding his whole family hostage with a gun. And he would only talk to her. Well, the sheriff really didn't want her there, but, since the guy wouldn't talk to him, he let her go in. Well, then when shit went south, he wanted to blame her. And that was another case where he wanted to, like, well, the one where the guy ended up in the hospital, he was blaming her because something weird was going on and he couldn't understand it. He literally could not understand it. And it's like a lot of people, he needed someone to blame. Didn't make it right, made it human. And I think it was the guy that had the convulsion and ended up in the hospital. Well, he didn't arrest her, but he put her under house arrest. And you had the sheriff's deputy was outside. He was there all night. And what happened is he's there and they show this. It's his dash cam. And something, I'm not making this up. You can go watch the movie. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if I had a special version of it or not. I bought this thing like years ago when I was still healthy. And it really freaked me out. To this day, I still will not watch that at night. I want it daylight. I will not. I am rarely freaked out by movies, but most of the horror movies I watch, they're not believable. This one here is creepy as fuck. I'm not gonna lie about that. If you don't like scary movies, don't watch it. Seriously, don't watch it. Do yourself a favor. And but he had that deputy there, and all of a sudden something came in over the house. Big. Looked triangular. And it was like it was there, and like a half a heartbeat after it showed up, the camera went fuzzy. You could still see something was there. You could hear the audio just fine. But the camera went fuzzy. And you heard the deputy going, hey, this is deputy. You got to get out of here. There's something above the house that came in. And then he panicked. He's like, oh my God, it's shooting a beam at the house. Oh, it's pulling the little girl through the wall. This is the fucking deputy. He's saying that whatever flew over the house shot a beam of light at the house, and it was pulling the kid through the house, through the wall, and then it disappeared. That girl was gone. And this was a deputy. This was not the mom. This wasn't that Casey, whatever her name was, that killed her kid and they found her in her fucking car trunk later. This was not this. This was not that. This was the deputy, witnessed it. He was an eyewitness to the events. You can hear it on the tape. And when the sheriff got there, he gets there, and he's the one eyewitness who was outside the house. He starts talking, and the guy goes, well, it just showed up and it pulled the little girl. And he's like, go home. He did not want to hear the truth. He did not want to hear this shit. And the thing that gets me about it is that woman, the one that Mila Jovovich, that's her name. The one that Mila Jovovich was playing, I apologize. I could picture her. She's really hot. I've always found her attractive, but I just could not picture her name right then. But oh my God, she got like a lot of these people that are professionals like that. She would take notes verbally, and then she hired somebody to transcribe them for her. Well, she got something back from the person and they're like, yeah, there was a problem. I have no idea what this is. If you figure it out, send it back to me and I'll redo it. She didn't transcribe it. And she went and listened to it. Well, she was taking her notes and then it sounds like she fell asleep. Well, and I'm just going to say this, and it kind of goes in with what I was talking earlier, where you've got these people in the military that are talking about, oh, well, it's demonic and all that. When I saw that interview with Lou where he was talking about this, it took me a minute, and it made me think about that movie, The Fourth Kind. And the reason they call it The Fourth Kind is somebody, I think it's Dr. Hynek from Project Blue Book, he came up with 3 kinds of alien encounters. I believe it was 3 kinds, and they've added to it since. But the first kind is where you just have a sighting. Somebody sees it. A close encounter of the second kind is where there's trace evidence. So, you've got like the Walton experience where they make the claim that the UFO came down and there were trees that were burnt. Or Roswell, New Mexico, where the thing crashed and you've got debris. That would be a close encounter of the second kind. And I think I don't know for sure, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but if you have a dead body, that might still be a second kind. Close encounter of the third kind is where it would be like E.T. or, God, I can't think of the name of the movie. Oh, shit. It came out in the 70s. It was before E.T. I want to say it was several years before E.T. But it was this UFO one where the UFO came down, and at the end of the movie, and I cannot think of it. If anybody on YouTube thinks of this when it gets up there, if you know the name of the movie, please put it in the comments because I know I'm not going to remember it, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name. If you saw An American President, he was the guy who played Don Rumsfeld in there. The guy that was running against the president from the Republican Party. But he was in it, and I think he's the guy that was eating the fucking mashed potatoes, like whatever the fucking aliens did to him. He was just sitting there eating mashed potatoes, kind of flipping out, almost like a PTSD from it. And I can't think of that guy's name. And he was in it real young, and that would be a close encounter of the third kind where you actually meet the aliens. And at the end of that movie, the mothership came down, and they either went up on the ship or they came down off the ship. And the Walton experience, if you believe that would be... Okay, that wouldn't exactly be. E.T. would be a close encounter of the third time where E.T. came down and actually interacted with the kid. That would be a close. And then the Walton one would be the fourth kind. That's where you're abducted. And so I don't know. But she got that transcript back. I'm just going to pretty much end it here. And like I said, I'm going to finish watching it. I kind of whet your appetite. If it's something you're interested in, go check that out. Come back and I'll try and find other good stuff for you. And as much as I can, but like I'm starting to feel it a little bit, and I kind of want to go out on a good note. I'd like to put good content out to get people to maybe want to come and watch it. And I'm starting to fade a little bit. I'm still doing okay, but last couple days, man, I did stuff and it was just shit. I'm still gonna put it up. You can watch it. Not, hopefully, it won't turn anybody off long term. But it sounded like, I would say it sounded more like The Exorcist than E.T. She started speaking in a foreign language. And she didn't know what it was. Well, she looked into it. She was speaking Sumerian. And this is a language that is not spoken anymore. We can guess maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 words. or 8 out of 10. It's you know, we when you hear it, the experts are batting like 500. You know, they're getting about half of it, or a little more, a little bit less, but that is not a coherent thing where they can translate it. And I didn't know this until recently, but apparently when they found that language, they the only reason they were able to translate it at all is because they found the story of Gilgamesh in Sumerian, the cuneiform, because that is, they said, like, they go, you know, you see these things where they talk about aliens, they go, cuneiform, the Sumerian language written, that's an alien language. With other languages, they'll be like, oh well, this here is similar to this. They said that that cuneiform is not similar to any other written language on the planet. It is unique in and of itself. And there was something I was watching where they were talking. I think it might have been something my brother had on TV this morning. They were talking about another ancient civilization. This one here, they found evidence of it underwater down by Greece, I think. And they said, and I don't know how they know, but they were saying in the show that it is the first written language. So that would mean that they're older than the Sumerians. And well, anyways, she was speaking this, but it wasn't in her voice. If you go and watch it, you shoot a seriously. If you get a chance, you go watch that movie, The Fourth Kind. You leave a comment in this on YouTube. Go watch it on YouTube, or like for those of you watching here, go watch the movie, and then in a couple weeks when I get this up on YouTube, it'll have the same title it has here. You go and you tell me, does that sound like exorcism? I'm not saying it's a demon. I'm not saying that at all, but that's what it sounds like. So maybe this whole thing of devils and demons, maybe they're like an alien species. Maybe, you know, and again, I don't know. Maybe the Bible got it right and they're evil. Maybe the Bible didn't and they were good. I don't know. I literally don't know. But it was weird. And she finally figured out that it was Sumerian, and she found out that her husband had reached out to this expert. So he actually came and helped her out and translated, and you know, you got a sense of what it was. Well, then what she did was she had been treating those people. Then, well, what she did was she put herself under regression, and that voice came out again, but she was having a conversation with it. Now, this is the movie, but it was supposed to be based on actual events. And her friend was there, the other doctor, and I believe that language expert was there in the movie. And she was asking for her daughter back, and this voice would then take over and go, your daughter is ours now. And there was something in there about I am your God or something. I mean, it was nasty. It was not good at all. And when it got done with her, and this is the thing, when you saw this, there was actual footage here and there of the real doctor. And I am not kidding you. Originally, when you saw footage of the doctor, she was like Mila Jovovich. I would say she is a very attractive lady, small, delicate like that. After that, it looked like she'd become a meth head or a crackhead, and she didn't do drugs. But what happened to her when that thing took her over? Again, like a possession. She looked different in the videos. I cannot do it justice, but it's just like, oh my God, you really need to watch it, especially if you got the ones where they got the split footage. But something bad happened to her, regardless of what it is, but something bad. And again, the original video that they put side by side, you could see her convulsing and all this other shit. And I don't know if she was levitating or not. She might have. But and they said at the end of it that they have not found her daughter, dead or alive. That sheriff resigned. He basically, I think I'm not sure if he finished out his term, but like shortly after that, he didn't run for office anymore. Might have been one more term, but shortly thereafter he retired. And they said that that doctor and that I think I got this right. I might be wrong. It was at least one, but I think it was both of them. But that doctor and that professor that was helping her with the language, one or both of them, I know the doctor did. Like the doctor did not want to be included in the movie because he had moved on to a bigger university and he was worried that if his participation came out, it might harm, kind of like what they have with the UFO stuff. It used to be you came forward and told people the truth, they woo 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 woo, and they'd fire you. They'd use it as an excuse to let you go. And he was actually worried it would hurt his job if it came out. But he helped them with everything. All the translation, everything they needed that was his expertise, every way he could help them with the movie, he helped them. And I think the doctor, friend of hers, did not want to be a part of the movie. So they changed his name, they changed the professor's name. But I think both of them said that everything that they witnessed that was in the movie was spot on. That sheriff didn't want to talk. And like the stuff they pieced together for that sheriff and like the after the fact, like after the movie, they like, well, yeah, here's what happened to him. Here's what he did. Here's what happened. Here's what didn't. I'm thinking of that episode of Skinwalker Ranch where they were talking to this old retired sheriff that was still alive because he had dealt with one or two of the previous owners before Bigelow. And some of the comments he made, because there was something he said, and after I think it was something about there, I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to misquote the guy. I don't want to look bad, and I don't want to make him look bad by getting it wrong. But so again, you'd have to go watch the show, and this was from a couple seasons ago. But he was talking about, he was talking to that guy that owned the ranch, and he wanted to know why because this was the guy that put all the chains and stuff, I believe, if memory is serving right. And he asked him about all the locks on the door, all the chains on the stuff. And the guy said, well, he goes, if I don't chain stuff down, if I don't do this, if I don't do that, stuff comes missing. And I think he was the guy that they said where he couldn't find his cows, and he found them all stuffed in a building on top of each other, and they were like in suspended animation almost. And then when he touched one or said something near them, it's like they woke up and they were freaking out that they were in there. And it said, we really don't know how anybody got him in there. And I think he had a post hole digging machine. And he was using it. He set it down. He turned around and it was gone. Well, then a few days later, he found it up in a tree, like 50 feet up in a tree, like somebody just placed it there for fun. But some of the stuff that sheriff said about Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm not going to say it's the same shit this sheriff, but it was like you could sort of see it in his face just talking about it. It was kind of like the face on this actor playing that sheriff. Where like, yeah, this guy was going through the same thing where he just couldn't believe this shit, And but that movie was really, really good. And just that thing in there where they were translating, and they had it on tape, and I don't know if that was the original tape or if they kind of cleaned it up for the movie, but they had it on her dictaphone or whatever it was, where it was what she said when she kind of went into that trance. And then they also had, she recorded that session where she did that regressive therapy, and that thing was telling her, "I am your God," or something. Your daughter is mine. She will stay with us. And the other thing that they pointed out, and this will be the last thing, and then I'm gonna see if I can get that. I want to give it to you one more time, so if you're interested, you can go watch, because that's what I'm gonna watch when I get done here. Julian Dory is the channel on YouTube. He does a podcast. The most shocking ancient civilization covers-ups of all time, Matt LaCroix. And she talked about the number of times the FBI came to her area. And she gave you the population stats it's a small town, maybe a village. And they were getting like, and I'm probably wrong on this. I'm hoping I'm in the ballpark, but it was something like they got 10 times the visits from the FBI that like Juneau and Anchorage did, much, much bigger cities than what theirs were. And I find this stuff fascinating, real or not. But I gotta tell you, with the stuff that is coming up now, and this is new news, it's new, first time, and I'll probably do it every video that I think about it. Um, there is bipartisan support in Congress to have, I might be wrong, but I think they called it a select committee or something like that. But it sounds like they're going to have a classified hearing with the Senate and the House doing a deep dive on this. And if that's the case, they will be able to subpoena stuff. If I'm understanding it right, and I might be wrong, I'm not an expert on this, but I just saw the blurb out that there's bipartisan support to do that, and they're working on it. But they would have subpoena power, and since it's going to be classified, they will be able to talk to witnesses about stuff that they could not on the open hearings. Like, so when they ask these guys, okay, where are the bodies? Oh, I can talk to this guy. I talked to Franz Hoover, Tom Clinton. You know, they can give names. They can say this is where they said they were on this date. They may have been moved, and you know, and they will be able to give Congress details. They'll be able to give names, dates, places. I just wish we could see it with the screwing around that Congress is getting. And I don't know, maybe this isn't possible. But to me, I would really like to see them say, hey, look, we're going to do this out in the open. I would really love for them to do it. We're going to do this out in the open. We're going to tell everybody what's really going on. You guys have fucked around. You've intimidated our witnesses. You've scared off our witnesses. You've lied to us. You've sent these people in here who have fucking lied to us. When we ask them a certain question, the correct answer is yes, here's what you want to know, or I can't tell you about that unless we're in a classified. And they would come in and they lied. I'm positive they have lied to Congress at some of these hearings. And they were told that they were going to have this UFO troubleshooting team up there fucking looking into this. And here we are like a year later. They don't have a phone you can call. They don't have a website. They don't have an email address where you can send him stuff. Like, I reached out to the president today and I said, yeah, look, I appreciate what you did, but it really looks like SSA's fucking the dog on this, because they set me up with an appointment and my ride won't give me a ride because it doesn't look like it's a valid place. And then when I looked the guy up so I could call and get him to call them, he's got a disconnected phone number. So, you know, but, you know, I could reach out to the president. You know, this place, for something they are, you know, and it's not his job. You know, he's a real nice guy to do this. I'm not trying to criticize him, but this is not really his job to make up for the inability of the SSA to do their job. But, you know, he's got that thing out there where you can reach out to him, and I generally get a response from him. I appreciate it. I think it's great. I didn't expect anything. When I first wrote him, I said, hey, look, you know, hey, this is what's going on. Don't worry about me. I don't think I'm worth it, but maybe do something for the masses out there. You know, I'm a big Star Trek fan. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. So I'm not important. For the grand scheme of things, I'm just not that important. But, I did appreciate it. But I can reach out to him. But this group, AARO, AARO or whatever, that was basically meant to pacify Congress, it's been a year. They don't even have an email like the president does where you can contact him and let him know, hey, here's what I saw. You know, they picked me up for 3 hours, put me back down. My left testicle was shaved off, and I had a carrot up my butt. You know, there's nothing where you could, you know, report that stuff to them. And it really looks like they've been fucking the dog. And the one thing I got to say, he's a Republican, so we probably don't agree on too much else. But I saw that one Republican where he goes, I think they see how popular this is, and they just want money. Because and after he said that, it was a week or two later when somebody reached out because that Australian journalist basically said, "Well, yeah, I found out they don't have a phone, they don't have an email, the website's not up." Well, somebody goes, and I think they were being a little naughty, but somebody basically contacted him and said, "Yeah, here's the guy's phone number, here's his personal email address." They gave that Ross Coulthard a way to contact the head of Arrow, and that guy started right in. It's like, "Oh, well, we really don't have any funding for this. We need some funding." So, and this is what that Tim Burchett, Republican, I think he's from Tennessee, he said, "Yeah, they want money." He goes, "They don't need any more goddamn money. They've been investigating this for 40, 50 years or longer." I think they've been doing it since the 1950s, so that's like 70 years. But he goes, "They've been investigating this for decades." He goes, I'm not voting to give them any more money. They can just turn over what they got." He goes, "We can actually look at it ourselves." And sure enough, that's what they're doing. "Oh, well, give us some money. Give us some money." And it's like, yeah, I think and I really hope I'm right on this, but I think they've got some, and I think Biden, he'd be another one that I think, because he isn't blocking any of this. I don't see him going to war on this. Where if you had like Bush Sr. still in there, maybe even Bush Jr., I think they'd be trying to cover this up. Clinton, I think, wanted to do more, but I heard from one of his people, he pushed as much as he could. And he got to the point where he firmly believed, and I'm not saying it's true, but he firmly believed that if he pushed any harder on this, they would kill him like they killed Kennedy. That's what he honestly believed. So he backed the fuck off of it. And I really hope we get some. I hope everybody has a good day. I have no idea. I will probably by Wednesday or Thursday, there'll probably be somebody at the Social Security Administration just giggling as they take out that big fucking stamp and going, "Denied. He didn't make his medical appointment." Well, yeah. Yeah, you sent me to a place where the place I get a ride from won't go. And then when I tried to call to get that guy to call them like first thing Monday, the fucking phone's disconnected. Yeah, this sounds really fair. I'm sorry again. I don't really care if they fix the SSA, but seriously, please reach out, get legalized assisted suicide. Because I just don't think I got the fight in me for this shit anymore. So, the system's broken. If I was a dope addict or had 8 kids, I'd probably be on disability. But since I got real health issues, it's not working. And I don't think it's going to work in my lifetime. So please help out.